Welcome here to the news desk, Northwest Digital News. I'm Kevin Hunter with Kyle Torgerson, and we're going to be talking about how to get big discounts off MSRP. That is manufactured suggested retail price at your local car dealership. So Kyle has a number of pictures to share with us as we go along and help you better understand what specifically we're talking about. So anyhow, let's get started by sharing with people what a window sticker looks like. This is one of your common manufacturers that you find out on a car lot. Ford. And so you'll see a window sticker like this. And Kyle, a lot of people look at this window sticker, and some people unfortunately think this is where car negotiations start. So we're going to educate people and help them better understand more of what's going on behind the scenes and how to accomplish somewhere in the neighborhood of a 20 to 25% off MSRP when it's all said and done. So some of the discounts that we're going to share with you today, or the ways to save money off window sticker, some of them can't be used at the same time as other discounts, but you being aware of all the different ones that exist out there, it means everything to you arriving at a end price that's the most fair for you, the buyer. So let's get started talking about dealer invoice. This is very different than the window sticker. So this is actually what the dealer is invoiced from the manufacturer. So on this particular one, Kyle's mic is covering the final number down there, but you see that the MSRP on this particular vehicle is $30,860. So that's the number that you'd see out on the window sticker on the lot. Yes. And the number next to it then is the actual dealer invoice, which is $28,504. That's a difference of $2,350 roughly. Now, there's another thing that comes out of this MSRP before, so that we're talking about what actual dealer cost is. So in this case, this particular vehicle that had an MSRP of $30,008, its actual cost of the dealer is $28,502. And then there's also a holdback. So let's show the holdback graphic there. Now this just gives an approximation of what holdback is in some of the various manufacturers that are out there. Holdback is really a amount of money that the manufacturer pays the dealership at the conclusion of the month based on all the new cars that they've sold there. And you look at Acura, 2% of base MSRP. Down at the bottom here, in fact, behind my shoulder, you see Ford there, 3% of total MSRP. So on that Ford window sticker that we showed early on, you could see a invoice, being $2,300, $2,500 less than what the window sticker is. And then Ford has a 3% of total MSRP. And on the particular example that we were talking about, that's another $925. So the dealer's real cost on a MSRP of $30,860 was reduced to dealer invoice at $28,502, and another $925 comes off of that for holdback. So now you know what the actual cost is to the dealer from the manufacturer. Now let's visit about another subject that comes into play here, Kyle, and that is manufacturer rebates and dealer incentives. So here, when we look at this graphic we have here of all these different discounts that are off of these vehicles, you need to know what the manufacturer rebates are off a new car that you're buying, because those are actually rebates from the manufacturer to the dealer, but that's your money as a car buyer. So when you need to know what those rebates are, because whatever when we mentioned what the final cost to dealer was, these rebates are coming out of that number now as well. So they are in addition to dealer invoice and dealer holdback come these manufacturer rebates that have nothing to do with anything else that's going out there. It's just what the manufacturer is rebating on and discounting to the dealer, which goes to the customer. So be aware of what the rebates are. There can also be in play dealer incentives as well too. So a lot of different things come into play as to what additional discounts a dealer is throwing into the vehicle in addition to rebates. And you can show the window sticker that has the a breakdown, which is a combination of a few different discounts. You can see things like this show up on windows all the time. So this particular vehicle MSRP was at $36,680. Now the save $7,000 is actually a combination of rebates and a dealer incentive put in there. And then they have this T bonus, which it can be a number of different things. You'll always have to ask, what's this additional bonus that's on here? But you notice a T bonus of $1,000. Now this vehicle is marked for sale at $28,680. That is a reduction of 22% off MSRP. Now the thing for you to know as a potential car buyer, do you think this is the end of the negotiations? Do you think that's the price you're going to pay for the car?
I think as an average person, I believe so, yeah.
If you're not a very good negotiator, the answer is yes. Because another dealer somewhere else will have the same thing penciled out on their car window somewhere. We'll get to this in the end. But you start pitting these two dealers against each other and watch that number go to 28, maybe to 27.5, whatever. So that's not the end of the negotiations. And as we said early on, you can get somewhere between 20-25% off MSRP. This is just one of the examples of how that happens. So a couple other things that come into play besides rebates and dealer incentives. You can also have things like a X plan or an employee purchase program. If your company is either a supplier to the manufacturer or you're an employee anywhere in the manufacturer's realm of influence, also ask about employee discounts or things that are otherwise known as X plan discounts. Make sure you ask about those. So now let's talk about a different subject. Moving on to brand loyalty. Now, you might ask, what is brand loyalty discounts and how do they come into play? Well, look at some of the manufacturers that are on this list here. These are people at the top of the list here is Subaru. 67.7% of people who bought a Subaru generally returned back to Subaru to buy another Subaru. That's a little bit of a testament to the quality of the vehicle and how people like that. But there's another way that these brands out there are getting this kind of loyalty. They give you a little incentive to come back. So not all of them do that, but if you're aware of the fact that brand loyalty does exist, and many manufacturers have discounts for them, don't be surprised if you've owned a Dodge as an example for 5 years or 10 years and you come back to buy another Dodge. Don't be surprised if Dodge is running an incentive where you get another $500 off of your truck you're buying because you've been a Dodge owner for the last 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. So make sure you ask about brand loyalty discounts. Now, here's another one that a lot of people aren't aware of, and that is the regional auto shows that go on. Now, this isn't something that the auto show itself is doing. This is something that manufacturers are doing. And where you see these commonly show up are in the springtime. So auto shows in your region might run in February, March, April, somewhere in that time frame. But they do this because they're trying to help the public. They're stirring some interest in vehicles. Vehicle sales can tend to be a little bit slow in the first quarter of the year for a number of reasons. First of all, vehicle prices are at their highest in January and February and March. It's because it's the beginning of the year. Manufacturer incentives and rebates haven't increased as they will throughout the year. So we'll get to that in a moment, why that's important. But so they do these auto shows generally in the spring. And when you're either at the auto show or when you go out to it, let's say you find a car here you really like and you go shopping at one of the local dealers, ask them, are there auto show rebates that are going on right now? Because most of the manufacturers will throw additional money at the car while the auto shows are going on. Make sure you ask about a auto show discount. And don't be surprised if you open up your paper and you see these ads out there and it'll talk about auto show discounts as well. So be aware that those exist. Other discounts to be aware of if you're either a student in college and or a college grad. These are great things to be aware of because these can be any number. They can be $500, as you see in this one. This is a one being run by Toyota in this particular time frame, $750 rebate. These rebates, in most cases, are added on top of the other rebates that are already available on the car. So you're going to need proof, though, of school. So make sure you have you don't need to necessarily have college transcripts, but have information from your school and your college that demonstrate that you're a student. Maybe a student ID helps. Every manufacturer has a little bit different burden of proof for you to prove that you're a college student. But be aware of the fact that if you're either in school or a recent graduate from school, that this may well apply to you and you got another discount coming along. How about veterans? Veterans as well. There's veterans and or active military. And this particular one, as you can see, is being offered by Ford. Many of the manufacturers have these though. So either talk about current service or veteran. And again, you're going to need to have some proof that you're a veteran. If you got a copy of your DD-214 and or a active military card, generally that's the burden of proof. But always talk to the dealer and find out what that particular manufacturer wants. But again, another appreciation cash or a rebate that comes along to somebody who is a veteran. Now, let's say that you are a veteran as well as a recent college grad. It's possible that that manufacturer may have both of those discounts going on at the time. You may only qualify for one or the other. So don't be surprised if that happens. Now, here's some good news for first-time buyers. If you've never bought a car, or specifically a new car, if you've never had a car loan in your name before, you could qualify for a first-time buyer program. Now, there's a couple different ways this can be beneficial to you. It could be not only in terms of a rebate or some cash off, but there can also be first-time buyer financing terms out there that are specific to somebody who's a buyer for the first time. So for parents who have taken their college grad or somebody who just left high school out car shopping, be aware of the fact that there may be first-time car buyer, both financing incentives and rebate incentives that may apply to your freshly graduated student from high school. Or it doesn't matter if you've gone later in life and just never owned a car that was in your name. Maybe you're driving a family member's, but if you're a first-time buyer, this discount may apply to you. So now let's talk about a few of the things that really are outside the realm of manufacturer discounts per se, but they're things that impact the dealership itself. Let's visit first of all about aged inventory. Now this is a little bit associated with manufacturer as well, but so look at this year-end event. Why do you suppose that the best time to buy a brand new car, the best month of the year is December, and the worst month of the year is January? Have any idea why that might be the case?
New cars are rolling out at the beginning of the year.
New cars are out on the lot. They have no idea what the sales picture is going to be or anything else on those new cars. But come the end of the year, now they still have models sitting on the lot. And they're going, hey, we still have, you know, we're in 2018 right now. There's 2017 models even this late in the year. There's models from the previous year sitting on car lots out there. If you see the model year from the previous year, I even tell people, hey, if you've been shopping at a specific dealer, and you're looking at a specific model. Let's just use trucks as an example. If you have the previous year model and the current year model on that lot at the same time, that's actually really works out in your favor on that previous year model. Not only because the manufacturer is interested in the highest rebates come at the end of the year, because they keep adding rebates to move those older models along, but now you also have a dealer who has what's aged inventory. They have a vehicle that's been there on the lot for a while. They want to get rid of it too. And so there's not only incentives coming from the manufacturer, but incentive from the dealer to get that off of their lot. And so, hey, if you have the previous year model and the current year model on the lot at the same time, December is usually always the best time of the year to buy a car. A couple of things that tie into timing as far as purchase. Anytime throughout the year, the best time is to buy a car at the end of the month. The dealer gets given incentives for volumes of cars that are moved in a given month. The priority that they get from the manufacturer and how many new cars they can get or models of new cars that might be in high demand are all based on sales of previous months. So as an example, if a dealer is at the point where one or two extra sales make a difference in how many cars they can ask for in the next month, and it maybe has an influence on what kind of money they're getting back from the manufacturer in terms of holdback and other things, they're going to be much more inclined to sell that vehicle to you and much more motivated to negotiate with you at the end of the month. The other little tweak to this is, let's say it's now the last week of the month. My recommendation as far as days of the week, go on a Tuesday and Thursday when it's or a Tuesday, Wednesday rather, in the middle of the week when it's slower in the dealership. Why? Because they have more time to dicker with you, number one. And, you know, the sales really pick up going into Friday and Saturday. They don't like to spend hours working on a deal with you on the weekends because they got so many customers coming in there. And Monday tends to be the first day of the week where they're tying up all these car deals that happen from over the weekend. And even people who never showed up on Saturdays, who might have been car shopping on a Saturday or a Sunday while there's nobody around, show up on Monday to do car deals. So Mondays don't generally tend to be really great days for drawn out negotiations. But if you don't mind spending the time, show up on a Tuesday or Wednesday in the last week of the month and put the screws to them. That tends to work out in your favor. And again, going back to the aged inventory, you can ask questions anytime throughout the year. You can ask questions. Hey, can you show me a couple of the new cars you have in your lot that have been here for a few months and you're interested in moving? I'd like to start there. Might be that the ideal vehicle for you has been sitting on that car lot for 90 days, 120 days or longer, and they're motivated to make it move. So ask about that. Let's talk also about holidays. Now, there tend to be a lot of details and promotions going on around holidays, but here's Memorial Day. You know, next to me, there's the 4th of July thing over there by Kyle. You can also expect to see things like this go on perhaps around Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc. Generally, you see all kinds of balloons and flags and everything's like that flying around these dealerships around these times. Be aware of the fact, though, that sometimes these holiday sales aren't really a sale at all. Sometimes they are genuine sales, sometimes they aren't. Just because somebody's hanging balloons and flying flags and creating all this so-called excitement around this big deal going on. Is there ever a week that you aren't listening to the radio or the TV or whatever, and you say, you hear a dealership saying, "Get down here now, the deals have never been hotter." Yeah, there's a little bit of hype around this, but there can be some very legitimate incentives, rebates, extra things that go on around holidays like Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. So be aware of that the holidays could actually be a very good time of year to be car shopping. Another category, weather. Now, here's a depiction of, perhaps in the Midwest or somewhere where they get plenty of snow. I'll tell you what, when it's cold or there's been a lot of rain and it's not very good weather, there's a lot of people who are not car shopping, which means the dealership's slow. So during cold weather, bad weather, rainy weather, not a bad idea to go out and make a visit if you don't mind yourself enduring a little bit of this weather punishment. Go out and do a little car shopping during bad weather. You'll be surprised because here's a finance guy who hasn't, talked to a customer perhaps in several hours, because sometimes they're doing multiples a day. Sometimes maybe he hasn't talked to his last customer was yesterday. It's now noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you show up. They're like, "Hey, let's get something rolling with this and make things happen, man. We're ready. We're ready to do deals." They'll tell you. And yeah, it's because of the weather. So make sure that you, like I said, if it's cold or rainy, think about going car shopping on that particular day. Now let's talk about some of the things that, now that you've learned a little bit about these discounts, from dealer invoice to holdback to manufacturer rebates, brand loyalty, auto shows, college grad discounts, veteran discounts, first-time buyers, aged inventory, even the holidays, etc. What does this really come down to as far as brass tacks? Now you can use all of this information. If you've done this shopping at a few different dealers, pit the dealers against each other. Get the dealers negotiating with each other. So we got dealer A over here and dealer B over here. You know what? Get dealers talking about the same vehicle, the same truck, the same SUV, whatever vehicle it is you're looking at. Shop a few different dealers. Get them dealing back and forth against each other. We showed you a deal here just a bit ago on the screen where this particular vehicle is written off 22% off MSRP. We'll take a picture of that whole deal. Go over to another competing dealer and say, "Hey, this is a vehicle I can get over here with this deal. What can you guys do for me?" Pit the two dealers against each other. Don't be surprised if they come down a little more, the other comes down a little more, and you get them into a little bit of a bidding war. Be willing to walk away. Guys and gals who sit down in the finance office and start talking numbers right away, they know you're a lot more interested in buying a car and leaving than you are in negotiating. Don't go sit in that finance office. Sit out at the sales desk with a salesman and say, let's get down to some brass tacks here and see what you guys can do. And when they're done, get up, even if you plan on buying the vehicle from there, get up, walk out and say, you know what, we're going to go get some lunch. We're going to compare apples to apples out there and see what we can come up with. Don't be surprised if they call you while you're out to lunch and say, we're going to offer you a few more bucks. You can use that time as well to call the other dealer and say, hey, Kyle, you're over at XYZ dealership. I just got done visiting with Jim over here at your competitor. They're now down to 26,870. We're kind of leaning on going that direction. Let me know if there's anything else you guys can do before we finish lunch and go back and buy this other car. Don't be surprised if you get another cheaper bid from them too. So bid the dealership against each other. My final point here is it all comes down to negotiation. So you can be aware of all these deals, all these rebates, all these incentives. You can have done all of this research. Don't be the person who folds when it matters. You know, here's a husband and wife dealing with a finance man, you know, at the desk. Hold their feet to the fire. And you know something, you're going to have to be willing to be uncomfortable and make the person across the desk from you a little uncomfortable too. Because you know what I've heard happen and seen happen so many times, Kyle, is it gets down to the car buyer having done all of their homework, figured out all of these rebates, all of the discounts, everything they got coming to them. They've, you know, gone and shopped their own credit with their own bank, so they know what they qualify for. They're in a really strong seat. And this finance guy, kind of like the whimpering dog, you know, gives you the puppy dog eyes and go, come on, you guys, you got to give me something here. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have to give them anything. You have worked for all of these discounts and rebates and everything for yourself. You've done all of this work. You know, sometimes this scenario that we're seeing right here is great because husband and wife getting together. I have found that in a lot of my experience, Kyle, that sometimes the women are much better negotiators than the guys are. I mean, the guys get to a certain point where they'll tend to go, well, all right, let's do this. And the wife's like, no, I wanna see what his deal is going to be on the financing, or I want to see what his deal is going to be on this or whatever. Women sometimes are very, very skilled negotiators, and sometimes, you know, when you leave house and husband and wife are talking, or, you know, if you're a single person, you got a friend who's going to go car shopping with you, I never recommend that somebody show up at a dealer by themselves. And when you go into finance, if you're buying a car just for you and you're the sole buyer, hey, it's your information. The dealership can't tell you that you can't have another person sitting next to you while they go over your financing and your terms or whatever else. Bring somebody with you that you trust. And, you know, when it comes right down to the end of this, in this particular picture, we see a couple sitting across the desk from the finance man. When it comes down to you making your final decision on what you're going to do, here's what you do. You say, would you kick the guy out of his own office? Say, would you mind giving us a little bit of time, step out of the office and let us talk? Kick the guy out of his own office, make him leave, and the two of you sit down and decide what you're going to agree to. This is, like I said, it's tough. It can make you uncomfortable. It can make the finance man you're dealing with uncomfortable. But this deal is all about the most fair and best deal for you as the customer. Don't waste all of this homework and all these great ideas that we've already given you. Don't waste them by folding when it comes to the finance office. So those are our tips on how to get between 20 and 25% off MSRP off of your next purchase of a brand new car. There's all kinds of other tips that we have relative to finance, to all the different fees you might incur, etc. You can find them here on this channel, or go search Northwest Digital News. Every week we're doing shows to help car buyers get the best, most fair, and transparent car deals that you can while you're out car shopping. That's going to do it for us here on Northwest Digital News. I'm Kevin Hunter with Kyle Torgerson. Until next time, take care.